I want us to look a little bit at, and I'm so glad that Peter and them came over and spoke a little bit about their ministry. Now, first of all, I want to read a portion from Matthew chapter 5. In the beginning, you'll say, but then what has that got to do with ministry? But follow me. It says, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled." And we love it when people say, "Blessed be you. May the Lord do good to you. May you receive from God even much more than what you have prayed for." And we love that. But this verse that I've just read, blessed are those who do everything for righteousness' sake. Verse 6. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Now I want to ask you, just from the start, tell me, does your Christianity really satisfy you? Does it satisfy? Or is it a burden? A burden to get up and go to church? Is it a burden? Or does it satisfy you to this extent that there's something that is so exciting within your heart that you just can't keep it inside? It says here, you can get that satisfaction if you hunger and thirst for righteousness. Righteousness, what is that? Righteousness, the word righteousness is being in the right position with God. Now, I can't say that I'm in the right position with God while I'm keeping on sinning. Those two don't go together. But have I got such a thirst to stand in the right relationship with God? If I have that thirst in my life, that religion, that relationship satisfies. Are you satisfied? There's a song that goes, and I heard it years back, and it says, "I am satisfied. I am satisfied. I am satisfied with Jesus. But the question is to me, when I think of Calvary, is my Master satisfied?" Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. I heard a story of there in one other communist country where they caught this little boy, who was the son of a preacher. Then they said to him, "We want to ask you, we have been through our rockets and stuff like that, we've been to the moon. We've even gone past the moon. We're now trying other planets. You know, we've gone all this way and we've never seen God yet. So God, according to us, don't exist. The little boy said to him, so I can see there's something that you don't understand. Tell me, those astronauts that went up there, did they have pure hearts? And this man was startled. How can you ask me this? He said, no, because the Bible says, blessed are those who are pure in heart, because they will see God. You can go as far as you want to, but if you do not have a pure heart, you cannot see God. Blessed are those. And here we come through to what mission work is all about. You know, if I ask you just straight out, are you a Christian? Many say yes. Why do you say yes? Well, because I believe Jesus died on the cross and his blood washed away my sins and so on. Really? When did that happen? Oh, no, 2,000 years ago. Oh. But are you, and then I goes closer. Tell me, do you know Jesus? How do you know Jesus? Is he part of your life? Have you invited him to take control of your life? Do you know him? Do you know him? Now, together with your answer comes a challenge. Because tell me, if you know him, how many other people have you told that you know him? The problem in this church as a whole, is this big problem that we've got such a large percentage of what is called His Majesty's Secret Service. Now we believe in God. We believe in His Majesty. But we're part of the Secret Service. We shouldn't tell anybody. We should just keep quiet about it. Well, is that what Jesus wants us to do? When He said, go ye into all the world, He actually starts off with a great encouragement to us. He says, behold, all power has been given unto me, in heaven and on earth. Therefore, go and preach the gospel to all nations. Because all power belongs to Him. I want to talk about Christianity in the one side and want to challenge you with this. If you are a Christian, stand up for Jesus. Stand up for Him. How do we stand up for Him? Well, if everybody says, I don't know Him, you say, I do. I might have shared this with you some time back, but I want to share it with you again. Simple ways in which we can share Jesus. When I was at school, nobody liked me. None of the children liked me. Because I was a different guy. I knew that Exodus 20 says, thou shalt not use the name of the Lord your God in vain. And I had little cards printed with these words on it. Thou shalt not use the name of the Lord your God in vain, because he will not keep unpunished those who use his name in vain. And whenever I heard somebody using the name of the Lord, I would take out these cards and take it to the guy and say, just read what it says. You know, my nickname was the priest. And even playing rugby, yeah, I also played rugby. I'm a tall guy and I've got a long distance to fall, so I've had some hard falls. I remember one day the teacher was standing next to the field and he was, I was in the front line. They had a line out and I was jumping for the ball. And the teacher stood next to the field and he said, "Come on, priest, get that ball." That was me. The guys didn't like. After school, during my school years, there was a guy there that I thought, man, if this guy goes out of school, he'll end up in prison. I saw him a couple of years later, after we've gone through the army and what have you. And to my shame, I say that during the army years and so on, I took a little bit of a spiritual dip. I started off well. I remember when I started off with the army, I was thinking that first evening, with all the guys there and so on, I was thinking, should I take out my Bible or should I not? And deep in my heart, I felt, do what you're supposed to do. And I took out my Bible and I opened it and I started reading and the whole bungalow fell quiet. And then this guy took out his Bible and that guy took out his Bible. The next day, the guy who was sleeping next to me there, he came and he said to me, "I just want to thank you for taking out your Bible. Because if you did not take out your Bible, I would not have had the courage to do that." But after the army, I started smoking. Why? I don't know. I don't know. Anybody knows why they smoke. I started smoking and slowly cooled off in my Christian way. And after the army, I met up with someone who was with me at school. And I said to him, "Achvili, you know, I think I was a little bit overboard when I was at school." He said, "Johan, I don't think anybody can ever say that he is too much of a Christian." He said, "Can you remember that card that you gave me?" I said to him, "No, I can't remember the card that I gave you, but I can remember that I've handed out these cards." He said, "Yeah, I remember the day. We mocked you and laughed at you and whatever." He said, "But Johan, you'll never know what effect that little card had on my life." He gave his life to Jesus thereafter. The one waters, one plants, the other one waters, but God makes it to grow. Now for us as Christians, and this is now where I want to stop as Christians. Do you love Jesus? There are many ways in which you can stand out for Jesus. But we choose to keep quiet. Had God really saved you? Well, That's one of the big problems we have. Because if Jesus Christ don't live in you, there's nothing that you can tell the world. You cannot give unto anybody anything you yourself do not possess. And if you do not possess Jesus Christ in your life, you cannot share him with anybody else. And that is perhaps why many of the people in the church are quiet, because they don't have Jesus. We can try to find the fault here or there, but the essence of it is Jesus there. Can you think of after Jesus rose from the dead and the disciples? I mean, if I was one of them, I would have burst of this knowledge. Jesus Christ rose from the dead. I would just want to go through the world and tell everybody about it. You know what? Jesus Christ, he died. And you won't believe me, but I'm telling you the truth. He's not in there. We put him in the grave and he's not there. You can go and see him. Somebody one day said, this is one thing that is strange to him, that so many people go so far to Palestine over Easter time to see nothing. Because he's not there. So you as Christian, me as Christian, we have a responsibility to take Jesus to the outside world. Now in this same section that I was starting to read, the last verse there says, blessed are those who are persecuted. When people talk bad about them, blessed are they. Blessed are they. Now, let's talk about mission here. It's not an easy road. I want to tell you, you get to doors and you want to share Jesus with people. And you say, I just want to tell you a little bit about Jesus. No. Bah! You get it. I've had how many conversations where somebody opens the door and he keeps the gate shut. And he says, yes, what do you want? So now I just want to find out a little bit about what you believe. Who? Do you believe in God? Of course, everybody believes in God. Yeah, they say we all pray to the same God, we just call him different names. Oh, close. Yes. We get those times where it is disheartening. It breaks something inside here. Perhaps it should break, because that is pride. But I want to go a little bit further and say that we in South Africa have got a huge privilege, because we live in a country which has freedom of religion. I've been in Afghanistan for a couple of months. There, if somebody in a family comes to Christ, they kill him. I spoke to a minister from Pakistan. I said to him, isn't this a problem in your church that when you lead people to Christ, they might die? He says, well, I want to tell you that in Pakistan, If somebody comes and says they want Jesus, I ask them straight out, are you willing to? Here, we have freedom. We have freedom of expression. You can still speak to somebody about Christ. I was in a country, Indonesia, flying for the United Nations just after the tsunami went through Bangla, Aceh, Banda Aceh. And hundreds, thousands of people were just killed. I know that we were driving past a cemetery on the way to the airport every day. And the guy said, you see this space here? This is about 70,000 people buried here. 70,000. He said that those are the people whom the family could not recognize, because the United Nations put up large tents, air-conditioned tents, because it's very hot in Indonesia. And then if they lay out the bodies like that, the family came walking through to see if they could recognize anybody. And only those who were not recognized were buried in this mass grave. And there were 70,000. He says that there are other sites like this. But in Indonesia, there was one thing they said to us. You are not allowed to share Christ with anybody. If we do find you sharing Jesus with anybody, we are giving you 24 hours to leave the country. That's now the northern part of the Sumatra island, which is called the Aceh province. Not allowed to talk about Jesus. The closest I came to speaking about Jesus during that time, and you can see what we're slowly moving into, is missionary life. If it's difficult for you to be a Christian, believe me, to be a missionary has got a higher calling. It's more dangerous as well. In Indonesia, as well as in Afghanistan, they call it, when a Muslim becomes a Christian, they call it, he brought shame on the family. And if anybody from the family would kill that guy, they say it was to remove the shame of the family. And family shame murders are not prosecuted in Afghanistan. Would you like to be a missionary there? Become a little bit closer to my home. My dad was a missionary. My dad left South Africa and still in those days had a bicycle and drove into Central Africa, into what is called DRC at the moment. It was called the Belgian Congo. Not knowing what to find. Way out in the bush, no contact with home, nothing. Remember how my dad told me one day they were on his bicycle, and he had to cross a swollen river, and all there was a tree that fell across the river, a tree trunk, and the water in the river was just touching this pole. So it was making this pole to do this, and you had to cross it. He was carrying his bicycle in this one hand and trying to balance to go over to the other side, and he lost his balance right in the middle of the river and fell into the river. Now he was holding on to the stump on this side and the bicycle on this side. He could move. So somebody came from the other side to help to take over his bicycle. Now, apart from, I said in Afghanistan, people get killed for the gospel. I want to tell you, this is not a joke. And it's happening today. Christians are being killed because of their faith. Are you willing to die for Christ? Would you like to be a missionary? If you cannot be a missionary at home, don't even think about being a missionary out there. First, be an effective missionary at home. I have a book at home, God's Martyrs. How that in a place like Indonesia, on the further island called, can't even remember, when the communists took over there, they got all the Christians together and killed them. Some of them, they describe in this book, they had a steamroller. You know what a steamroller is? Where they harden the soil before they make a road. You know, they would scrape it and then they put the steamroller on top to compact the ground. They took all these missionaries, all these Christians, said to them, we give you one more chance to give up Christianity. Otherwise, we're going to kill you. They lined them up side by side in front of the steamroller. And the captain said, let it come. There was a little boy lying next to his father, as fearful as could be. The little boy said, Father, what now? The father said, my son, in a couple of seconds' time, I'm going to see you in heaven. You want to be a missionary? People can persecute you. But if you're a missionary, you're also not absolved from trauma. Difficult situations that come. Things that happen which you'd say, but Lord, I'm working for you, and how can this happen? How can this happen? I was born in the Belgian Congo. My brothers and sisters as well. My youngest brother was born here in South Africa. And I remember when my brother was born and they found out that he was mentally retarded. I remember passing my mother's room and she was just crying. Lord, I've spent my life once. Christians are not absolved from difficult times. Later on, my brother became blind. He turned spastic. Was walking with his feet pointing to the inside, the soles of his feet. His hands were forward like this. Lord, I've spent my life like this. And for many things we don't have answers. Don't know. But a missionary is someone who says, Lord, come what may. May it be persecution. May it be laying down my life. Come what may. I want to serve you. I personally, when I was in the mission, and with this I close, I had an aircraft accident. I was a pilot. We came down, it was all misty. I still thought I was a good pilot at that time. We came down through the mist, the specific procedure that we have to come down through the clouds. And it was about 7 o'clock at night. I can remember turning from outbound, coming inbound, in line with the runway. But everything was misty, I couldn't see, so we slowly descending for the runway. And I said to the guy who sat next to me, Uncle Robert, I said to him, look, I'm concentrating on the instruments. That's the whole story of this. Tell me when you see the runway. And I was coming in for the landing, coming lower, lower, lower. Next moment, Uncle Robert says, hey! And I look up, and here in front of me stands this big blue gum tree. We had the undercarriage out, the landing lights on. We were just ready for landing. And it happened so quickly. You see the tree and then you hit it. And one of the branches of the tree struck the left-hand propeller, broke it off, and I could see in the light of the cloud the propeller pulsing me on my left-hand side. I opened power on the right-hand engine. But because the plane was now just pulling from one side, it pulled the plane onto its head like that. And we dived to the ground at a speed of 300 kilometers an hour. That's the time you close your books. I knew I was going to die now. What's it like? It amazed me because afterwards I lay in hospital and I thought, how can it be? You dive into your death, but you don't have any fear. Actually, deep in my heart, I had this excitement because I knew I was going to see Jesus now. The next moment, we struck the ground. I was knocked unconscious for some time. It grew dark, pitch dark. We landed up in a pine forest. And I was strapped to my seat, and in the crash, the seat folded, closed in, and I was still strapped with a safety belt, and I couldn't find a way to put my hand in here to open the safety belt. And I said, help! There were 2 other people in the plane. Both of them were climbed out, so they were still sitting outside. Won't go too deep into the story, but it's a miracle as such. And in came somebody and he tried to help me, and then he went out and he says, he can't that time, I reached out here and opened the safety valve. I got out of the plane, and coming out of the plane, in your mind, you say to yourself, this can't be true. The plane was standing on its nose in this pine forest with its tail up against a tree. The front of the plane was gone. I was standing with my feet on the ground. And the thing didn't burn. I got out from there and, to make a long story short, ended up in hospital for some time and so on. But I still couldn't understand how it could be possible to dive down to your death and not be scared. I knew I was going to see Jesus. Can I share with you a secret? I'm not at 10 minutes yet, got out of the plane and I said to myself, why would that have happened? Was God not with me? Did we not pray before we took off? And I came to this verse, sting, death, where is your sting? The sting of death is its sin. If you've got a clean heart, you want to see Him. So what I'm saying to you today is, we're looking at the life of a missionary. You have your persecution. You have your hardships, just like anybody else would. You have hard times. And that Pastor Alan know exactly what I'm talking about. It was about ek praat nou so lekker ek kan ophou. It was about 5 years back. And I lost my wife to this same sickness that Joost van der Westhuizen had. They call it aging. Her hands pulled like this. Feet pulled to the inside. She had what they call frontal lobe degeneration, frontal lobe of the brain going. And did we pray for her? Yes, we did. Did we expect that God was going to touch her? Yes, we did. She died. It takes guts to be a Christian. It takes guts to be a missionary. To say, Lord, that in spite of, I'm going to serve you. It was only about 2 years, year and a half, after Rita died. I had a daughter who through the years got addicted to drugs. For 12 years, Rita and I were struggling with this. And 2 years after Rita died, Nandi died. it's not always as rosy to be a missionary. It sounds glamorous from the outside, but going there, that's it. Now I want to ask you, sounds stupid, eh? Don't you want to be a missionary for God? Don't you want to be an on fire Christian that just can't keep quiet? You have to share it with somebody. I pray for missionaries. I hope you pray for them too. There are people in mission fields who go through what normal people don't go through. And just for the sake of Jesus. There's no glamour in it. And yet I want to ask you, don't you want to be a missionary for God? And remember that to be a missionary, you don't have to go to Timbuktu or someplace like that. You've got to start here. If you go home after the service, would you mind sharing with one person what Jesus means to you? You Christians ask me sometimes, I'm a Christian now, I've got to testify, but how do I start? Well, walk around the block, and the first person you find, just say to him, Jesus Christ loves you. You don't have to say anything else. Jesus Christ loves you. That's what the world needs to know. But I've said enough. Oh man, I hope that when we talk about these things, a desire will come to your heart to serve Jesus with everything you have. I'm 70 years old. I know my time is not, how does they say it? My time ahead of me is a lot less than the time behind me. We need somebody to take over from. I need you to take over from. Come on, somebody must take this gospel